In 2017, actress and activist Alyssa Milano tweeted out #MeToo, and the hashtag soon became the symbol of a broad feminist movement. Milano and her ilk taught us that women never lie. If they say they were sexually assaulted, then they were, and the man that was accused deserves to be presumed guilty until proven innocent, even if the accuser has very little or no evidence to support her claim. Milano doubled down on this paradigm when Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh was accused of sexual assault by Christine Blasey Ford. She went on national television, reminding us that women just don't lie about this stuff. And further, she said that women have been in the shadows for so long that if some men have to suffer as the result of #MeToo, then so be it. That's just the way the pendulum has to swing in order to bring about the change that she wants.
So whereas Trump might say that white men have it very difficult right now, I'm saying that women, young people, have had it difficult for generations and generations and generations, and we will not be silenced any longer. And if that means that men have a hard time right now, then I'm sorry. This is the way the pendulum has to shift for us to have equality and security in our country and within our societal views of what it means to be a woman.
Why then is Milano speaking out in support of presidential candidate, former Vice President Joe Biden, even though he has a sexual assault allegation against him that is far more credible than anything Ford claimed about Kavanaugh? Let's analyze Alyssa Milano's defense of herself that's been published at Deadline.com. Before we jump into reviewing Milano's article, I'll give a quick bit of background. If you're already familiar with the details of Christine Blasey Ford and Tara Reade's respective sexual assault allegations, feel free to skip ahead in this video to the timestamp listed below. In 2018, Christine Blasey Ford accused then Supreme Court Justice nominee Brett Kavanaugh of having laid on top of her while trying to disrobe her as a teenager at a house party in the summer of 1982. She initially claimed that this happened in the mid-1980s, although she later changed it to the early 80s and finally settled on the summer of 1982, although it is unclear how she narrowed down the date. She named 4 witnesses to this event, all of whom said they had no memory of the event in question, even her close, lifelong friend Leland Kaiser. In fact, Kaiser specifically stated that she was pressured to change her story to support Ford's account, with some individuals even making threats that they would release disparaging information about Kaiser if she did not change her story. No witnesses ever came forward saying that Ford told them about the event contemporaneously. In fact, the earliest possible reference to Ford claiming that Kavanaugh assaulted her is Ford's husband stating that he remembered her naming Kavanaugh when she referenced the event during a 2012 marital counseling session, 30 years after the alleged event occurred. Ford could not remember where the event occurred, how she got there, or how she got home. There is no corroborating evidence that Kavanaugh and Ford ever even met, much less that the party that Ford described occurred. Beyond this, intense investigation could not find any pattern of behavior by Kavanaugh that would support that this type of behavior is consistent with everything else known about him and his conduct throughout his career. Tara Reade asserts that Joe Biden digitally penetrated her with his fingers while she was working as a staffer in his office sometime in 1993. If true, Biden committed these actions as a sober, sitting U.S. senator, not a drunken teenager. Reade states that she complained about the incident to other staff in Biden's office and was fired as a result. As of yet, 4 witnesses have come forward stating that Reade told them about the event contemporaneously, not many years after it allegedly occurred. A clip from Larry King Live in 1993 has also surfaced in which a woman, whom Reade asserts is her mother, calls the show asking how a female staffer should deal with serious allegations against a prominent senator without going to the press. While other staffers who were working in Biden's office at the time deny that Reade ever complained about the incident, 2 who were working there as interns confirmed that Reade was abruptly relieved of her supervisory duties around April of 1993 and never supervised them again before their internships ended. Reade's account is not without problems, of course. She cannot remember precisely where the event occurred or the precise date. However, there is proof that Reade did in fact work in Biden's office, unlike Ford, who has been unable to establish that she and Kavanaugh ever met, apart from her own testimony. Also unlike Kavanaugh, who had no consistent pattern of misconduct over his career, there are literally hours of public video footage showing Joe Biden inappropriately touching women and even girls as young as 5 or 6. There are also 7 other women who have formally accused him of touching them inappropriately without those interactions rising to the level of sexual assault. While this does not prove Biden is guilty of what Reade alleges, it is not so much of a stretch to think that he might commit such actions in a private setting if he is so bold in behaving the way that he does with women in public settings. Now, I want to be clear. I do not believe that Tara Reade has presented enough evidence to prove beyond all reasonable doubt that Biden is guilty. I firmly believe that Biden should be presumed innocent until proven guilty, and that the burden of proof is on Reade to show that this assault happened, not on Biden to prove that it did not happen. However, I would submit to you that if you believed Christine Blasey Ford's accusations against Kavanaugh, and thereby called for him not to be confirmed to the Supreme Court and to be crucified in the media, then you have absolutely no excuse for doubting Reade's claims against Biden. With that in mind, Alyssa Milano, champion of #MeToo, believes Christine Blasey Ford but doubts Tara Reade. Why, might you ask? Let's look at her article, Living in the Gray as a Woman, published at Deadline.com. When I sent the #MeToo tweet, which helped spark a movement by amplifying the work of Tarana Burke in 2017, I didn't know what it would bring. I knew I was in pain. I knew millions of women around the world were in pain, and I knew how lonely that pain was, how isolating the experience of being a victim of sexual assault was, and how bad it was for us as a nation and as a species. But then it took off, and a moment became a movement that had been relegated to the shadows by a patriarchal system, and we stepped out into the light together. It was breathtaking and powerful and changed the world. It also changed me. Okay, the #MeToo movement was never about holding real perpetrators of sexual assault accountable, or about helping real victims of sexual assault. It was simply another propaganda effort by feminists to give women power over men through the force of law, by shifting the burden of proof from the person making the accusation to the person who was accused. And this was immediately evidenced by the fact that the women championing this movement only ever went after men like Brett Kavanaugh and Donald Trump, but never seemed to care about allegations against men like Bill Clinton, Keith Ellison, Justin Trudeau, and other men in positions of power who were on their side. The goal of #MeToo was to create a paradigm where any man who stood in the way of the feminist agenda could be destroyed through one accusation, followed by a trial by media, but any feminist ally man who stood to help the movement could just have their allegations ignored. Why? Because the leaders behind feminism don't care about real victims of assault one bit. They care about expanding the power of government over its citizens through a paradigm that disincentivizes marriage and the creation of families. See my video, Marriage and the State, to learn more. Isn't it instructive that conversations about gender violence continue to haunt men of power, when we live in a culture whose structures fundamentally thrive upon the objectification and oppression of women? Seriously, Milano? How are women being objectified and oppressed, according to you? On one hand, women state that not being allowed to walk around with their boobs hanging out is oppression. Yet if a man tries to look at a woman's boobs, that's objectification. If a hot woman dances in front of a camera in lingerie, this is somehow reinforcing the patriarchy. But if a woman is told she needs to dress more conservatively, it's also reinforcing the patriarchy. Women in this culture are not objectified or oppressed. Every woman has the freedom to dress however she'd like, act however she'd like, and pursue whatever career she'd like. That's why you're a millionaire actress with the ability to have your voice heard on a national level. What you really mean is that if you and your ilk don't get everything you want all the time, somehow you're being objectified and oppressed. So let me spell it out to you. You and your feminist allies already have the freedom to do virtually anything you want. But you will never, even in principle, be able to have everything you want all the time. If you'd like to see a culture where women really are objectified and oppressed, try Saudi Arabia or Iran. I would love to hear you speak out for women in those countries. It's not surprising that men who participate in these practices find great successes in life. It's forced so many women to make impossible choices between working with the very people who oppress us in order to have a chance at gaining power, or not working with them and staying under their thick, hairy thumbs. This is the game we were all forced to play because the board was rigged, but the rules are changing. Darn right they're changing. You're discovering that when you change the rules and lower the standard of proof for those accused of misconduct, you can't complain if it comes back to bite you. As an activist, it can be very easy to develop a black and white view of the world. Things are clearly wrong or clearly right. Harvey Weinstein's decades of rape were clearly wrong. Donald Trump's alleged sexual assaults were clearly wrong. Brett Kavanaugh's actions, told consistently over decades by his victim and supported by her polygraph results, were clearly wrong. Okay, this is just a flat-out lie. Christine Blasey Ford's accusations against Brett Kavanaugh were not told consistently over time. This was well documented by Rachel Mitchell after her questioning of Ford on Capitol Hill. Beyond that, she didn't have a single corroborating witness, and she was only asked 2 questions by her polygraph examiner, both of which were about a written statement she made that didn't even mention Kavanaugh by name. If you think Christine Blasey Ford made credible allegations against Kavanaugh, then you have absolutely no excuse for not believing Tara Reade's claims against Joe Biden. So were Matt Lauer's, Bill Cosby's, and so many others. As we started holding politicians and business leaders and celebrities around the world accountable for their actions, it was easy to sort things into their respective buckets. This is wrong, this is right. Holding people accountable for their actions was not only right, it was just. Except it's not always so easy, and living in the gray areas is something we're trying to figure out in the world of social media. But here's something social media doesn't afford us: nuance. Really? I mean, what's so complicated about it? You were among all the other MeToo figures shouting, "Believe all women! Believe all women!" You reminded us on national television that only 2 to 8% of sexual assault allegations are false, which isn't true by the way, but Milano did claim it. So we really have no excuse for not believing women from the get-go. What exactly are these nuances that you're suddenly discovering, Miss Milano? The world is gray, and as uncomfortable as that makes people, gray is where the real change happens. Black and white is easy. Gray is the place women can come together out of the glare of the election and speak our truths, our doubts, our hopes, our convictions, and test them against the light and the dark. Yeah, there's no my truth and your truth, there's just the truth. When it comes to unsubstantiated allegations, there's the accuser side of the story, the accused side of the story, there's the evidence, and then most importantly, there's what you can prove. Gray is where the conversations which continue to swirl around powerful men get started. And it's really almost always men, isn't it? Well, actually no. There are plenty of allegations of women abusing men, such as actress Asia Argento, who paid off the young man who accused her of sexually assaulting him when he was underage. Women are not always the innocent little flowers you'd like us to believe they are. As women, we've been gaslit. We've been blamed. We're too shrill or too quiet. We're weak or we're insufferable. We're whores or ice queens. We're baby killers or welfare queens. Women are not afforded the gray. We are not allowed anything but the binary extremes. And then we are pressured to turn on one another for making impossible choices. It's bullshit. And you know maybe why this is? It's because feminists insist on women being treated like children. On the one hand, women are strong and independent and don't need no man telling them what to do. And in fact, if a man tries to advise a woman against something that she wants to do, he's told that he's just an agent of the patriarchy and he's trying to limit female freedom. But then when the woman's poor decision crashes and burns exactly as was predicted, it's suddenly the fault of men for not advising her against her actions or for not responding to her actions the way she wanted them to. If you want women to start being treated with respect, encourage them to quit blaming men for all their problems and start taking accountability for their own actions. You can't have it both ways. It's not up to women to admonish or absolve perpetrators, or be regarded as complicit when we don't denounce them. Nothing makes this clearer than the women who are still supporting Joe Biden even with these accusations. Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, Amy Klobuchar, Nancy Pelosi, and Elizabeth Warren have all endorsed Biden and, like me, continue to support him because it's an impossible choice. Okay, so it's not up to women to admonish or absolve perpetrators. Then why was it your job to denounce Kavanaugh, but it's not your job to denounce Biden? I want to say for the record that I believe that Biden should be afforded due process and assumed innocent until proven guilty. However, there is no denying that Tara Reade has far more evidence supporting her claims against Biden than Ford ever had against Kavanaugh. All the women you just mentioned explicitly stated in public that Kavanaugh was unquestionably guilty and deserved to be booted. By calling this an impossible choice, you have flat out admitted that you do not care one bit about truth or about real victims of sexual assault. You don't care whether or not the men who are accused of a sexual assault are really guilty or innocent. All you care about is achieving your own selfish and unrealistic political agenda where you get everything you want all the time. It falls upon women to navigate within the system of men's design to make pragmatic choices that we hope will lead us to a more equal future. I still support Joe Biden because I believe that's the best choice for that future. And again, it's not up to women to absolve perpetrators. Well then, I expect you to keep your mouth shut the next time a non-feminist man gets accused of assault. Got it? If you won't hold all men across the board to the same standards, then your standards are pointless. How do progressive women choose between the grabber-in-chief who has done so much damage to our country and a man who has allegations made against him? In any black and white world, we'd have a woman to rally behind to replace Trump instead of an electoral college which says white men are the people driving the charge yet again this year. And here's another radically dishonest spin by Milano. Biden is not just a man with allegations made against him. There are literally hours of footage of him stroking the hair and kissing women, even little girls, and clearly making them uncomfortable. Does that prove he did what Tara Reade is accusing him of? No. But again, given everything we know about Biden, Reade's claims are a lot more credible than those of Christine Blasey Ford. And as for these continual references to Donald Trump's Billy Bush tape, don't forget that what he said in that tape was that when you're famous, women let you touch them like that. Is this morally abhorrent? Maybe, but again, he said women let him do it. Don't pretend like he was advocating for assaulting women against their will. The allegations against Joe Biden concern me deeply. He's a man I know, respect, and admire, and who I can't picture doing any of the things of which he's accused. But I've thought that before and been wrong. And sexual assault is always wrong. This is the position we are in as women, but make no mistake, it's not because of women. We have to suss out the one truth between two opposites, and either one puts us in an impossible position. And why exactly can't you picture him doing what he's accused of? Again, we have literally hours of footage of him touching women inappropriately and in ways that clearly make them uncomfortable. Given he's willing to do this so rampantly in public, is it so unbelievable that he might go a little bit further in private? And the fact that you call this an impossible position again shows your hypocrisy. If you're willing to go after Kavanaugh, but unwilling to go after Biden, it shows unequivocally that you don't care about sexual assault, evidence, or truth. You only care about your own political agenda. The Biden campaign's only statement said that he believes every woman should have the right to tell their story, and that the media is obligated to rigorously vet those claims. And of course I agree. Now, nobody's asked me, but if he did, I'd advise him to face the allegation head on, answer every question, and admit any wrongdoing. and to be the example for all men who face these kinds of accusations, whether founded or not. And when it was Kavanaugh on trial, Biden said that a woman's willingness to come forward in public like this meant that you had to believe that at least the essence of what she said was true, whether she remembered all the specific details or not. So why can't Biden hold himself to his own standard? But putting that aside for the moment, isn't what you just asked Biden to do exactly what Brett Kavanaugh did? Brett Kavanaugh denied Ford's claims, offered evidence in support of his claims that they were false, and never once asserted that Ford had no right to come forward. Are you seriously advising Biden to do exactly what Kavanaugh did? And if so, why? Why do you still condemn Kavanaugh after doing exactly what it is that you just said all men should do when they're accused, and now you're advising Biden to do the same? Why was Kavanaugh not a prime example of how men should handle sexual assault allegations? For God's sake, he did exactly what you've just advised Biden to do. As far as his accuser, I want every survivor to have space to tell their story. But I also don't want her to be fodder for the machine. And I honestly don't know what's next. Believing women was never about believe all women no matter what they say. It was about changing the culture of not believing women by default. It was about ending the patriarchy's dangerous drive for self-preservation at all costs, victims be damned. No, as we're seeing here, this was never about believing any women at all. This was about putting women in control of men through force of law in such a manner that you could crucify any man who stood in the way of the feminist agenda while ignoring credible accusations against men who stood to help the feminist agenda. You hypocrite! It's okay to be confused by the complexities progressive women face at every choice. It's okay to feel like there is no right way out, just the best way available. It's okay to look at evidence and come to your own conclusion. It's okay to vote the way you want, and it's okay to wish it was all so very different, that it didn't feel so hopeless here in the gray. Well, isn't that exactly what all the women who voted for Donald Trump did? They examined the evidence against him and came to the conclusion that he was either not guilty, or even if he was still the most politically expedient choice for them. Are you suggesting that examining the evidence and coming to your own conclusions is okay, even if someone comes to the opposite conclusion of you? Somehow I doubt you're actually okay with this. I want powerful men and women to continue to be held accountable for their bad actions. I want victims to be free to be heard. I want there to be an honest process of proving out accusations one way or another. And I want to keep having the conversation. I hope you'll meet me in the gray and talk, and to help us both find the way out. For women, no one else will. Yeah, no you don't. Honesty, due process, truth, holding men accountable. The fact that you still support Biden because of his political affiliations prove you only care about one thing: your own agenda. You believe that might makes right. It's perfectly fine to hold men accountable so long as they stand against you, but if they're for you, who cares? They're probably not guilty. Here's my challenge to you, Miss Milano. If you believe that sexual assault is a serious problem, then advocate for due process and start encouraging women to come forward against their accusers right when the alleged assaults occur, to ensure that the greatest chance that the evidence can be preserved and that they can prove their claims. Make clear to women everywhere that the burden of proof is on the person making the accusation, and therefore it behooves them to report immediately and in a manner that will preserve the evidence. If you believe that all that matters is the government using force to achieve your own agenda, then just say so, but quit playing these games, quit pretending that you actually care about victims of sexual assault. For goodness sakes, don't think you're fooling anyone by trying to claim in writing this article that you're somehow fair-handed and impartial and just walking in a gray area. This matter is in fact quite black and white. Brett Kavanaugh was accused of sexual assault, and as those claims were investigated, they became less and less credible over time. Biden has been accused of sexual assault, and while by no means conclusive, so far these allegations have been getting more credible over time. You support ousting Kavanaugh, but vigorously stand by Biden. You are a hypocrite and a fraud. Epic feminist fail. And that is my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth. Thanks everyone for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, as well as hit the bell to receive notifications so that you never miss an upload. And if you're a fan of my channel, please consider supporting me on Subscribestar, Bitbacker, or Patreon to receive special rewards. All links can be found in the About section of my website, my2centsvideos.com.